Hello, everybody. It is 10:09 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, December 22nd, 2016. And welcome into the Earthquake 3D live stream. I'm your host, Dutchsinse. And we daily recap events around the planet, striking seismically speaking and some volcanic activity. Also issuing semi-daily earthquake forecasts for new areas to watch for movement to strike. So everybody in chat, sorry for the late delay again. Like I said, I was out doing some Christmas shopping and got dragged up in a long line and a bunch of other stuff. So back here at the house, I've been checking in throughout the day, just observing what's going on. Haven't really done too many verbal updates today. So this will be one of the only verbal updates of the day. So if you have been paying attention, you noticed there was an increase in activity over in the West Pacific today. And also down in South America, some new activity breaking out. Also, Midwest U.S., West Coast last night, and Japan just a couple hours ago. So I think this is the most important spot that we're going to be talking about right now is over here in the West Pacific, just due to what developed today. So if you caught my update last night, you're already aware of the areas we were watching for new movement to develop. Well, guys, there's something that's kind of thrown a wrench in the whole works here. And that's two new deep earthquakes. One, a 4.4, down here right on the edge of our letter D, which stands for Deep Earthquake Location. This is a spot where we see deep earthquakes strike from time to time, and usually when they strike, there's shallower, larger movement that strikes nearby these deep earthquakes in the silent zones on both sides of the deep earthquakes. So in this case, there's a 4.4 at our letter D. That means there could be the potential for a 5.4 to 6.4 developing off this 4.4 on both sides. So 5.4 most likely to the south, 6.4 most likely to the west. Since pressure normally transfers to the west, you can see overall which way our arrows are going from the West Pacific, and they go all the way over to Europe. So the reason we're going to look for a 5.4 to the south and a 6.4 to the west is twofold. When pressure comes up from down below this area, it puts pressure up on the adjacent areas, the areas a few thousand kilometers away. And in this case, that's going to put the area between New Zealand and the letter D under pressure again. And this should result in another mid-range 5.0 earthquake. Everything to the south that's striking, even though it's moderately deep, striking down below the volcano at Taupo volcano, then down to the south as well, a 4.3 striking on our plate boundary. That's shallow movement, but it's not very large. The reason it's not getting very large is pressure's not being allowed to build in these areas. As soon as pressure is introduced to either the North Island or the South Island of New Zealand, it's being released either at the volcanoes on the North Island, right below them, not with new eruptions, but the pressure is immediately being released at that magma chamber with seismic activity. And then the plate boundary down to the south where we have our red line going across central New Zealand, that is the next spot which is normally hit. So those two spots are hit, but they're only hit after we have deep earthquakes up to the north. So the area in between the spot that moved down in New Zealand and the deep earthquake is the spot to watch. It's a fulcrum point. You know, it's like a middle point that when pressure reaches too great, it seeks out that middle point and it releases at the middle point between the two zones that have moved. And the magnitude, again, is going to be one magnitude larger than the deep earthquake down below because it's like a jackhammering pressure up on the underside of the plate. When that pressure hits the underside of the plate, it spreads out and up in a dome almost. And that dome shape of pressure reaches out very far, actually. I've got little representations on here which can show you. You can see on the side of the screen here that these are domes of pressure that reach out several thousand kilometers away. And we see the perimeters be struck, so you can see where that meets. It's pretty obvious. Watch to the south for that 5.4. But the larger earthquake, the 2 magnitude larger earthquake, which is up to 100 times more powerful than this 4.4 here, is going to strike between our two earthquake locations at our triangular bend, Solomon Islands, yet once again, right where these two come together. Now, we have Tonga right there, too, so it could go as far east as Tonga. I mean, I don't know if anybody even really is, concerned, but it's a 6, mid-range 6. It's enough to cause damage and scare people in the area, and in some cases, stone structures, to cause collapses. I'd like to remind everybody, a 5.5 over here in Colombia, at the Colombia-Ecuador border a couple days ago, killed 2 people in a building collapse, and one lady had a heart attack. So smaller earthquakes, while they are less damaging overall, it can still result in fatalities and injuries, which is why I want you guys to be prepared. So if you know anybody over there, you got to let them know. 6.4 is going to be striking in the Solomon Islands, and these are very heavily populated, believe it or not. Tonga and Solomon Islands. So tell them to be on watch, and it's only going to be 48 hours. It'll be a 2-day watch as of right now for this deep earthquake to be causing a shallower, larger earthquake to the west and to the south. It's not a 50-50 coin flip. Both sides are going to be hit in the middle points, the silent zones. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the other deep earthquake that struck up here. You see? Now, we talked about Guam last night, right? Well, here's Guam, the little itty-bitty island right there on the north tip of our red arrow. Well, look where the other arrow comes down. Now, this area right here is actually called the Izu Ridge. And to have a deep 5.0 there indicates that, first of all, there's the threat of new volcanic eruptions along the Izu Ridge. Now, there's only a couple of these that are above sea level. Most of these are undersea volcanoes, and when I show it to you, I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you're a longtime viewer, you'll already remember this spot due to Nishinoshima volcano. Nishinoshima was a undersea volcano that 2 years ago started to erupt heavily, and within a few months, it reached the ocean surface, and then it spread out even further into a actual island that's there today, but nobody's living on it, and that's here along here's Nishinoshima right here. Okay, so this is just one of them, but this is the one that reached above sea. Imagery date here is from 2014, so it's 2 years ago when the flows first started. This grew much bigger. It's not going to be washed away either. It's several thousand feet high. So that is a spot right there, but there's many others to the south, and we could see a new excitement along the Izu Ridge due to this deep earthquake down below. See what's happening here, same thing. Pressure's coming up from down below. First thing it hits are these ancient or old magma chambers on these volcanoes. Some of them will erupt, and that could happen in the next couple days or less. Same time that's happening, a near 5.0, and when you go check the station list on this, it's pretty interesting. From what I understand, you guys did not just see what I was looking at there. Okay, well, let's go back and show you one more time. Okay, here we go. All right, we're going to do it one more time. My display capture wasn't working for some reason. Okay, here we are. I'm going to zoom back in on the earthquake coordinates. Take a look at it. Hopefully you guys can see it now. You can see it good. Okay. So we'll back this out, and you'll see these are the undersea volcanoes that I was just talking about. Every one of them marked with a red triangle from the Smithsonian Institute. And Nishinoshima volcano is right here that I was just talking about. 2 years ago, it started to erupt, sent off new flows that came up above sea level, started to pile up on top of each other and go on to this older, littler island, smaller island, up to the north. And this is 2014. It grew even bigger. It covered the whole dang thing, and it's at least several thousand feet high. So this is the place where we have to watch for the potential threat of a new volcanic eruption. I'm not forecasting volcanic eruptions, just so you know. Just to let you know, a deep earthquake is occurring down there. Pressure is coming up from underneath, and it's hitting and expanding those locations where the magma chambers are. You may remember we issued a warning for the coast of Honshu, right? Well, look at this, guys. Coast of Honshu was struck directly by the first earthquake in the last 3 days. So the only earthquake recorded by the Europeans or USGS that's been reported struck in the spot where we warned last night. Now, this is a full magnitude less than I was looking for. So I was looking for more like a 5.6 to 6.2. And instead, it's about a magnitude and a half less than what we were looking for. Now, that's good news. I mean, it's better to get a smaller earthquake than to, get a larger earthquake, but this means that the pressure's not fully expended itself yet. There should be additional movement at the location very soon. So, when I look at the station lists, I want you guys to also take a look at the station list here on the right-hand side. Now, these low balls will drag it down magnitude-wise in the average, and that's why we get downgrades. But take a look. 5.1, 5.3, 5.1, 5.5. So, if I'm looking for a 6 and a mid-range 5 hits, they downgrade it to a 4.6. It is what it is. There's the movement we were looking for. But there should be more. The potential is for another earthquake of similar size to occur now that it hasn't fully expended itself. So people in Japan, you're going to have to watch for a similar size 5.0 earthquake to be striking by tomorrow in the same location off the coast of Honshu. So the chances of just having the coast of Honshu struck, I mean, we had all of Japan to work with, Kuril Islands, Kamchatka, Taiwan, but it was coast of Honshu to be struck. Why? Because the pressure, whatever wasn't expended down here over the past couple days, pushed up to the north and caused a similar sized 5. Now these 5s that have been happening over the past couple days have all been getting downgraded to, or if they're above 5, they've been getting downgraded to 5. If they are right at 5, they've been getting downgraded to 4.9. Look at the number of 4.9s on here. It's wild. I don't know what's going on, but so the 5s are carrying up instead of 6s. So there it is. So that fulfills Japan, but one more earthquake is going to strike. So this pretty much means that there's 2 more locations that we're watching to be hit now that Japan has been hit. Coast of California and the coast of Vancouver, BC. I told you guys if no large earthquake struck today in South America, we would cancel the warning for South America and a large earthquake. Well, that's true. So, South America, your warning is now canceled. It's an official strike on the large earthquake and a direct hit on the swarm. So, the swarm that hit in Ecuador at the Colombia border, we warned for Ecuador at the Colombia border, and the thing that occurred was a swarm multiple days in a row. 2 people died. 2 people died. So I'm attributing that to them not getting the warning for the large movement to hit. So we can rest easy and assured here now at Christmas time, going into Christmas, that the next couple days, the chances of an extremely large earthquake in South America are reducing. So I'm canceling the warning now, and we'll just take it out to a watch. Warning means it's imminent. It's going to strike in the next couple days. A watch means it's still possible, but you don't have to sleep outside. You don't have to sleep in your car. It's not coming imminently. So I'm still going to watch for movement just in case. Me, personally, I'm going to be watching. And if you live in South America, you should watch too, but don't lose sleep over it because it's already been multiple days since our deep 6.4 hit. That was 4.5 days ago. So if we get to day 5, which we're basically there now, day 5 and nothing's hit above 6.4, then we know that is it. Now it's all going to transfer over to the east, and we have another 24 to 48 hours in the Caribbean. If you live in the Caribbean, I know a lot of people vacation there for the Christmas time holidays. You have to be aware. You could see a 6 to 6.4 earthquake strike in the next day to 2 days. Here, north of Venezuela, southeast of Puerto Rico, through Dominica, out to the Barbados, even. So where our small little red arrow is here, going out to the east, has to be on watch. Why? Huge clusters of earthquakes over to the west. You see which way our arrows point? Central America, going over to the Central Atlantic. Well, the area right in between is going to be hit. And the reason it's going to be in the 6 range is because a cluster of 5s struck over to your west over the past several days. Okay? Now, before we get into the United States, let's quickly run into Europe. So, Italy, what's going on in Italy? Hey, according to the USGS and according to the Europeans, there aren't any earthquakes to report in Italy today. None. Hey, take a look at it. I've got the full 24-hour feed turned on. We don't have anything showing. I wonder what that's all about. Let's go turn on the Italy feed, showing the INGV list of earthquakes today. Oh, well, what do you know? So we have a dramatic lack of reporting of earthquakes from the European agency, showing the swarm that occurred today, and it doubled in size from where it was yesterday. So the swarm in Italy not only increased, but it increased in magnitude as well. So the number of earthquakes increased, and the magnitude of each earthquake increased. It went from 1s to 2s, and from 2s it went to 3s. Now I can show you all the 3s on the map here, just so you can see. We're talking about, well, a couple of them were downgraded to 2.8, 2.7, but you can still see them here. Sicily hit, North Italy hit at the Swiss border with France, and all the way over to the east at the border with Austria. So this means all of Italy, all of South Europe, has moved on a 3.0 level over the past day, with a nice swarm right in the middle. Boom. So, why aren't they reporting that to us? Why aren't they showing it to us? Well, guys, I issued a warning last night telling people that by tonight that we would be seeing a near 5.0 earthquake with an increase in the swarm and an increase in the magnitudes. Well, the swarm has increased. The magnitudes have increased. Where's the 5? The 5 is imminent. So the warning stands. We're not canceling it. We're not making it a watch. The warning stands. It's taking just a little bit longer. Maybe an additional 12 hours. Maybe into tomorrow night. Shouldn't be after the 23rd. At the latest, it's already the 23rd in Italy, early morning, which means that we're throughout the day today, going into tonight, we are watching for a 5.0 range earthquake to strike in central Italy. Now, it could be just a little bit north of the Norcia location. I mean, look to your north. 3s are breaking out from Torino all the way over east of Florence towards Venice. And that's more rare. We don't normally see North Italy activity around Venice, let's say. So the area to the south is at risk. There's a stack of earthquakes there right now. You had a 5 2 days ago, back down to your east-southeast. That's going to be what's causing your 5 in Italy. So the 5 a couple days ago will cause a 5 in Italy very, very soon. Now, let's talk about the U.S. We had some stuff happen today that I think all my U.S. viewers are going to be interested in seeing. How about some East Coast earthquakes? Anybody, pay attention. Please listen to what I'm about to show you. Okay, so East Coast was hit. These are small. These are what we call small earthquakes or even microquakes once we get down into the 1.0 range. New Hampshire was struck by a microquake. 2.2 struck in Virginia. Another 2.0 struck in Kentucky at the Ohio border, and a nice swarm returned back into Oklahoma at the fracking operations. So why was the East Coast hit? Anybody curious? Well, look at the last 24 hours worth of earthquakes. You're going to see a nice stack out west, a moderate stack of smaller earthquakes combined up back in Oklahoma, and then look what spilled over to the east. This is the defining edge of the North American plate. We see heavy movement on the west coast, moderate movement in the Midwest, light movement on the east coast. And the reason Virginia was struck along with Kentucky, look which way our arrows point. Do you see this here? They go right up the coast on both sides, equidistantly spaced from the mountain range. We have 2.0 activity, obviously. So the whole edge of the plate is being displaced right now. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the Canadian agency just to show us our Canadian earthquakes over the last, let's look at the last week. Okay, so take a look at it. This is the last week or so. Starting last week with the 3.0 up in Nova Scotia, equal to Maine. The reason 3s struck in Nova Scotia this past week is because of the upper 3s and near 4.0 earthquakes that struck in Oklahoma, well, now over a week ago. So if you live on the East Coast, please hear me out. You start to see earthquake activity after the Midwest is struck. And your earthquake size is relatively dependent on what strikes in the Midwest. And in the Midwest, you're struck usually after the West Coast is hit. So you can pretty much trace it across the edge of the plate like tracing dots on a map, or connect the dots. When we look over to the west, you're going to see a few things going out. The middle of Salt Lake, and I mean in the middle of Salt Lake itself, has been struck by a noteworthy earthquake swarm. And when you go look these up, it's really interesting because these are happening at about 5-kilometer depth. And I looked it up earlier, and there's nothing there. Nothing of any noteworthy significance there. But when you look at Salt Lake itself, look guys, Salt Lake is the remnants of a basin of an area that obviously formed during dramatic uplift. That's what trapped the inland ocean in here to begin with. Now if you look over to the west, we have a few volcanoes. But when we get down here on the actual lake, there is nothing that's really marked as an active volcano. It doesn't mean that there's not any old volcanic formations that are there, like Black Mountain, for instance. It could be, but there's no studies that show that. There's no place mark that I can download to show it. So we're, kind of victim of lack of reporting of these things. If this many volcanoes are down to the south, just take a look at how many there are. Okay, these are lava flows. Fumarole Butte volcano and unmarked Fumarole Butte volcano. Fumarole Butte, okay. Well, that's just one of many. There's hundreds of more volcanoes surrounding the area. I would just dare say that they stopped reporting, or at least recording, the volcanoes publicly to the public here around the Great Salt Lake. Maybe people go out there, but when I look at this and I see this right here is most likely, Pigeon Mountain is most likely an ancient volcano. Tufting on the top, exposed cinder, what people would call lava rock, also weathered basalt. Okay, so just looking at it, that to me alone right there says that this is on the perimeter of a volcano, and that's just not marked. So it's just a few miles to the east. The basin itself, formed by dramatic uplift, swarm of earthquakes striking there. It's extremely rare. Very rare. Like, maybe once in the last 7 years, we've seen that happen at Salt Lake. Same time that's going on, California is just straight up swarming. And I mean from Southern California, all around Salton Sea, Cerro Prieto, San Andreas Fault, Garlock Fault, Long Valley Caldera. I mean, I could just keep going on and on and on. Mono Lake Volcano, the nuclear operations, Sugarloaf Butte, Aurora Peak. You guys may not even know some of these, but I'm just naming them because we've looked them up so many times. Pyramid Lake, on the edge of Pyramid Lake by the geysers. As we go further north, Hayward Fault, struck inside of San Francisco itself with a noteworthy swarm. Now, they only have 4 earthquakes listed there. I looked earlier and there was 20. So, I don't know, maybe they're, combining them or reducing them, but nice size swarm breaking out on the Hayward Fault, and then going back up to the north, another swarm breaking out at the geysers, which is a man-made geothermal pumping operation. So, guys, I've said it for the last 3 days, and I'm saying it for the next 2 more. We are watching on the coast of California, where our red arrow is for the potential of a 6.0 earthquake. And the red arrow goes right down to the Gordo Escarpment, going into Eureka, California. So northwest California, you only really have another day to watch. Up here in Vancouver, BC, same goes for you, only 0.1 less. So in between Vancouver and Alaska, it's actually just a very small stretch here. Alaskan islands come down here. So very small little stretch, 5.9. The potential still does exist because Japan is still ready to be hit or has been hit by some movement, but not all the movement we're looking for. Which means West Coast, you are still primed. It's going to strike. Maybe you'll get a Christmas present. So, that being said, keep watch there. It's not terribly large earthquake that we're looking for there, But if it strikes very close to land or right on land, it'll be enough to cause cracks in your foundations, maybe knock facades off the fronts of houses, certainly knock things off shelves if it's a shallow earthquake, and you only have 2 more days to watch it, guys. 2 more. So, we'll be canceling the warning for California on Christmas Eve if it doesn't hit. Yeah, so that's what we've got for the west coast of the U.S. Now, quickly, let's go run down the volcanoes that erupted today. Take a look at the screen here. Okay, so we have a nice number of volcanoes. These are all the same usual suspects, I guess. But take a look at it. Kluchevskoy up in Kamchatka, Bagana over in Papua New Guinea, Langila back in Papua New Guinea. Now here's the new one. Yasser back on the list with a new continuous flow and ash emissions. So this is at Vanuatu. As we go further down to the south, Bogoslav again erupting. Another powerful explosion occurred at the volcano last night. Second eruption was much stronger and richer in ash than the first one. Now the first one went 20,000 feet up. Now look at this. The ash plume rose to 35,000 feet. I mean, look, that's a huge, huge blast. That's like St. Helens blast. Okay, that's how high we're talking about. So, this blast up here, again, happened in the Aleutian Island chain in Alaska. So, we have volcanic eruptions happening across the North Pacific from Kamchatka to Bogoslav, which means the area across Vancouver onto the west coast of the U.S. is going to see 5.9, 6.0 activity. You don't get those kind of blasts up to the north without seeing earthquake activity on both sides. That's why we're watching Japan. That's why we're watching the west coast. Japan was just hit. West coast, you should be as well. If it's 1 magnitude less than what I'm looking for, so be it. Okay? As we go further west with the new deep earthquakes that are happening here, guys, this means the next 3 days, 4 days, things are about to go back up through the roof in the West Pacific, just as it was starting to calm down. So dust off your plans if you live along the red lines over here. And again, luckily, some of the areas are ocean, mainly, not much land, not many cities, but the spots that do need to be warned, look, you get down here, we have a volcanic eruption at Yasser, and that's the middle point where we're watching? Come on. Up in Japan, do you really think you're just going to get away with a 4.6 after the rest of the West Pacific moves on a 6.0 level? Hey, west coast of the United States, do you really think you're going to get out of the whole Pacific unrest event with nothing? Just asking, because they're rhetorical questions I already know the answers to, which is, you're going to see activity. These 2 new deep earthquakes pretty much guarantee it at this point. So, what doesn't develop off our previous round is now about to be fulfilled with our 2 new deep earthquakes. I wish I could give you better news. I wish I could just tell you, hey, it's gotten quiet. Things have calmed down. There's nothing going on. We're going to have a quiet Christmas. You guys can just go back to not paying attention. I wish I could tell you that. But that's not what the deal is. Here we are. It's go time again. 2 new deep earthquakes. Japan has been primed. West Coast should be hit. When West Coast is hit, Midwest is hit. When Midwest is hit, East Coast of the U.S. is hit. The larger the movement in the Midwest, the larger the movement is on the East Coast. So you better hope it stays less in the Midwest for the East Coast. Look, go back to the 5.9 that hit in Virginia. That very same day, 12 hours before, Colorado and Oklahoma were both struck by significant size earthquakes. It could happen again. It really could. So word up. Have a plan. Be prepared. Do not be scared. If you're over in Italy, don't let your guard down. Just because they're not reporting earthquakes on the EMSC, you actually have to go check the INGV. So just because, there may be a technical reason. I'm not going to blame the people at EMSC. There may be a technical reason. There might be some very good reason that these earthquakes are not on the map today. But you need to pay attention, and you need to have the multiple links ready to go, or you need to listen to the areas where we're warning and just pay attention to the magnitudes that strike. Either way, I would prefer it if you guys knew what was going on yourselves, like the weather, so you would watch and pay attention to which way the winds are blowing and which way the storm is going, so that when the meteorologist comes on the screen and issues his warnings or her warnings, that you would already know which direction they're talking about. You would already understand how weather goes across the area. And I want you to understand, pressure goes across these areas following the red lines. And the red lines took 7 years of observation by myself and the help of many viewers to get it done and put onto maps for Earthquake 3D use. The people who have been involved, everybody, look, the moderators, you guys have put up with so much. Having to fight off thousands of trolls, plus deal with each other, strangers, have to deal with strangers in here, plus you guys are strangers with each other. Thank you for being part of this. Everybody else who's in chat, you guys sharing my stream, getting the warnings out. People have gotten the warnings. I'm positive about this. People have written me and told me, I got your warning. We took the warning into account. The large earthquake hit. This was over in Italy. Large earthquake hit. They were ready to go by the door and go out. They were ready. The reason they were ready is because they got the warning. So, and they wouldn't have got it if you guys, someone didn't share it with them. It's not like they were sitting there, earthquake in Italy, is it coming? Nobody was searching that. It took other people to write their friends and say, hey, a warning has been issued. Please be aware. Now, the reason the professionals don't do this is multifold. They've said it's impossible to forecast an earthquake. They said pressure doesn't transfer across plates or regions like this. In other words, they said everything that I'm telling you is wrong. That's what they said. So that's why they can't forecast earthquakes. It's just that simple. They say pressure doesn't transfer. It does. Not only does it transfer just a short distance, it goes thousands of miles and causes similar-sized earthquakes across those distances. Pressure transfers in the opposite direction than the plates move. So the plates are spreading. We're told Pangea, the whole bit. Okay, well, we'll accept that. We'll go with that. That's accepted hypothesis or theory on Earth formation. I may not agree with it 100%, but we'll go with that. And we'll say, okay, well, if the planet's spreading, the earthquakes are developing in the opposite direction than the plates supposedly move. That's a huge breakthrough discovery. They've been ignoring it because it conflicts with everything that they've taught for the last 50 years. But there it is. So it's all on YouTube. It's all here for you to review real time. Watch the areas that we warned. Go back and watch last night's update for the full 72-hour warnings for each location. And within a day or two, we will see this all play out. The 2 new deep earthquakes that struck are ominous. It's a warning sign. These 2 new deep earthquakes are letting us know it's going to be a rough Christmas. This is going to take us through Christmas with these new deep earthquakes. And if anything else develops, it'll even be more. It'll be larger. So if you see any new deep earthquakes, you really need to be prepared. Really. And speaking of being prepared, I want to again tell you, don't be scared. You need to have a plan. You need to know what to do when an earthquake strikes. Your friends, family, co-workers, loved ones, if you own a business, your employees. Hey, speaking of employees, real quick. Guys, I went to the post office today and picked up a whole bunch of more stuff from my P.O. box. And I got to talk finally to the people at the post office. They are so awesome. The people there at the Maplewood post office. I'm not getting paid anything for this. And I told them I would give them a shout out. So big shout out to everybody at the Maplewood post office who are now aware that earthquake forecasting is going on. I was able to tell some of them there. And thank you for delivering all my mail and getting it to me with nothing missing. Thank you. So everybody who's been sending me stuff, guys, I've got packages that I'm going to be opening on Christmas Eve. I got cards and letters from viewers that have mailed me stuff. I even got a box of Dutchsinse cookies sent to me by somebody in Virginia. Ruru25 and the Lucky Cakery sent me a box of Dutchsinse cookies. Unbelievably good. So it's just been a wild, wild time here, guys, and I want to thank you for being part of it. I hope you have a good Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or Hanukkah, or whatever it is, Kwanzaa, and also for the new year. If you don't do any of that, you're just secular and you're not into any of that, I hope you have a good new year, a safe one, that you do well, that things go better for all of us, and that's the best I can wish for all of us. So word up to all my people. Please subscribe if you're new. I was trying to hit 170,000 by Christmas, and as you can see, we are at 176,230 as of right now. So if you like my content, please subscribe. That's how I grow on YouTube, and we're trying to get it into more of an impressive number that will catch people's eyes. Because as you know, people don't pay attention to small channels on YouTube for some reason. I'm guilty of it too. It's just small channels, for some reason, don't catch traction on YouTube. So I'm trying to grow it, trying to get it out to the world, trying to save lives and do the right thing. Hope you guys help me do it. Thanks for everybody who has helped already. Word, I'll be back. Oh, I'm going to play some music. Let me get that back on here. Let's get some sound going. There you go. Now you can listen to the warm sounds of the Christmas fire as we play some more music. And we'll probably get back into Andre Rieu in a little bit. But I think I'll play some music first, just to keep us in the holiday sort of mindset. Oh, right on, guys. I'll be back.